Okay, my friends, here it is. This Saturday morning live stream at the Garden Like a Viking headquarters, Zone 5/6, Northern Indiana. It is very hot today. It is hot in here even because guess what? I'm making bone broth. I know. It seems totally absurd to be boiling a huge pot of steaming bone broth. I mean, huge, like 15 quarts. It'll make 15 quarts, 16 really. And it seems absurd, but now's the time because Costco had them chicken feet on sale. I'd never seen them there before. So I got boatloads of the chicken feet because bone broth is one of the best things you can be making for yourself. And we've got celery and onions and garlic and sage and rosemary. You know, put all of that stuff in there. So delicious. Yeah, bay leaves and peppercorns, all that stuff. 24-hour boil. So it kind of steams it up in here. So it's exceptionally warm. Just saying that. So guys, let me know where you're at, what you are growing, what you're doing to help with that heat. What are you guys doing to help mitigate that heat loss or that extreme heat? Because it is warm today. And the past week has been warm. Since we talked last, yeah, it's been very warm, okay? So let's see, who is here? What you guys are doing? Okay, let's see. First question. Hey, where do you all get your fish for the liquid fertilizer? Buying fish for 30-gallon container is expensive. Definitely don't buy it, okay? Don't, and I've had a lot of people ask me that. So definitely don't buy it. It would actually be a jug of Alaska fish fertilizer would be cheaper than having to buy the fish, definitely. So even though it's an inferior product, it doesn't matter. Guys, can you hear this microphone? Let me know. Even though it is an inferior product, buying that much fish is cost prohibitive. So the best way to do it is to go fishing, of course, and see what kind of invasive carp are in your area. It's usually like the big Asian carp or even catfish and stuff. But get like the big invasive ones, and you only need a couple of them, and you'll make a lot with that. It doesn't really matter what kind of fish. So don't be going and buying, 30 pounds of sardines for $197 or something. That's not what you want to do. Okay. So you can also pair up with someone who fishes a lot. There's lots of lakes around here, and people do, bluegill. You only get like 1 or 2 little morsel bites off of each bluegill. And so you have to get like 50 of them to have a dinner, or like a fry or something. And so what's left of that is very good, very good. But if you're making the FAA, the fish amino acids, I highly recommend the whole fish. I recommend the whole fish. It's going to be the best. It's going to make the best substance for sure. And I have tested this. I know this. The end product of the whole fish is the best. And the plants respond the best. Yeah. So guys, what are you doing for the heat, huh? Let's see here. Mom Computer says, good day. Can't wait to see what Nate needs advice on. Yes, we will get to that in a little bit. Definitely. So thank you very much for being here. Look to Nature. What's up, my friend? Yes, all the mints are doing well. The mints that you sent me, the mint is doing well. The Vietnamese cilantro is doing well, just starting to grow. So I'm probably most hopeful for the berries and cream mint. Yeah, berries and cream mint. I know. I'm probably most hopeful for that one because it's, well, one, the name just sounds really well, but I also like the smell of it. So we'll see. Yeah. Beck says, harvested 20 pounds or pods of music garlic yesterday, and I'm so proud of my small garden. First time, waiting on another batch of red crandasgur. Yes, so that is awesome. Music is a very, very popular variety. It's probably the most popular of the varieties. Very easy to find, stores a long time, very pungent. Is it one of the most popular or is it one of the most pungent? I forget exactly where that, because I have grown it one time, the music garlic, and it must have been bad stock because it just didn't come up for whatever reason. So that happens sometimes. But this time, oh my gosh, we've got the Turkish red, we've got the Viking Uncle garlic, and we've got a little bit of the Bates family garlic left, Asian Tempest, and Leningrad. Those are what we're growing out here, and it's pretty much all ready. If you watched the short that I made yesterday, it's pretty much all ready to harvest here in the next 3 to 5 days, give or take. But remember, a good way to tell is to leave 1 or 2 scapes on the garlic of each variety that you're planting. And when that scape uncurls and is completely straight up, then that is when it is time to harvest. Yep, all of them of that variety. Yep. So, let's see here. What's up, Pop Perm? Pam from South Africa. Big Will Dog. Teets. Donald Hughes. Yes. Okay. The sound is good. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Yes. Val, Costco has chicken feet. Not always. They only had chicken feet recently, the past month or so. And so it's like $10 for maybe 20 pounds. I mean, it's a big old thing of it, and it's all cleaned, mechanically cleaned chicken feet. That is some of the best cartilage, the best stuff you can get. It really is. Those connective tissues in there, that is full of all kinds of good stuff, yeah, that we need. I won't get too deep into that, the many benefits and wonders of bone broth, but it is one of the greatest things that you can be making if you make it right, especially if you make it the way we do, with pounds of garlic and onions and celery and carrots and herbs, and it's so delicious. So delicious. Matthew Wares has got ribs on the smoker. That sounds amazing. Yes. What's up, my friends? Haven't seen you in a while. Dietrich and Dana, good to see you guys here. Yes, it has been a while. How is the garden going? Yes. Finally, I got gardenlikeaviking.com. I got the fertilizer happening, which we're going to be doing another batch here real soon if you guys want it. And so many things happening. So thanks again for being there in the very beginning. So let's see. Don, yeah, talking about people's names got changed and stuff. Sometimes YouTube does that and you don't have any control over it. So it might be that your handle now is different than whatever you said it is. You know, they just kind of make something and then let you know about it. They don't ask, or I mean, it's just, hey, this is the new way of doing it, so deal with it. Yes. Nice. Yes. Okay, good, Beck. Thank you. So Val says, I'm using 70% shade cloth over the mushrooms and greens. Use 50% to shade the peppers in the evening. Nice. Shade cloth is definitely the way to go. It is so noticeably cooler. If you watch that video that I made a few weeks ago about planting ginger while actually starting the first things of the fall garden, you will see I did a lumen or a photosynthetic photon flux density test from underneath the shade cloth as opposed to out in the bright direct light. And the ppfd for short was about 2100 in the full blast sun. That's blazing sun. And then I would put it under the shade cloth, and the black shade cloth was about 1400. So it knocked it down quite a bit. But then Bootstrap Farmer sent me an aluminum shade cloth for the really hot places like Texas and Arizona and stuff like that. And that actually cools, I mean, it reflects the sun. It doesn't just stop it, it reflects it from it. And so you put the ppfd meter under the aluminum one and it plummets to like 800 ppfd in the blazing full blast sun. So for those of you that are in the truly hot areas, you might want to look into that. If it's something you want, use the link in the description, the Viking stuff, of course, to get into Bootstrap Farmer. And that way, it keeps track of everything, of course, for us. But I probably am not going to have to use that this year just because it doesn't get that blazing hot here. The normal shade cloth kind of works fine, for here. But it was astonishing the reduction. Yet in light intensity, also in temperature, if we left it there for some time, no doubt. So nice. Yes, that'd be the way to go. Throw netted 20 pounds of baby big head Asian carp from the Illinois River. That's what we're talking about. Throw netting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. 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 Teeth Treats, $2. Thank you, my friend. Says soil drench your mushroom areas with compost tea. Yes, definitely. Soil drench the mushroom areas with the compost tea. The compost tea can go over everything, guys. It's the most wonderful thing. So long as the sun is down, just rain the compost tea down over everything. It's pretty magnificent. And I have done it with the high quality compost tea and rain down over everything. And the very next day, brilliant fuzzy white covered everything. It was amazing. I was alarmed at first, but it just covered everything for that day. And then it all went away. But it was like a brilliant white fuzzy. It was just incredible. I mean, covered the sides of the beds and everything. So it was nice. Yes. Yes. So guys, so we are approaching the first week of July, and that is pretty much the last call for things like corn. All right, sweet corn, yes, you can keep planting for a while longer, but for field corn, dry corn like this Asian or this glass gem corn, you still got time to plant it. And one of the very important things about timing the planting, at least around here in corn country, GMO corn country, you have to remember that corn is wind pollinated. So it does not rely on insects traveling between plants. It is just pollinated by the wind. The tassel releases the male pollen, and the silks down there will receive it. Okay, you know the silk I'm talking about, where it comes up on top of the ear. Everybody like gets them in their teeth when they're trying to eat. It's amazing, but every one of those silk fibers corresponds to a kernel. Yes. And so to have full ears, every one of those silk strands has to receive a grain of pollen. Isn't that incredible? And so if you didn't plant them in a big enough block, or if you didn't plant them in the right way, or you had, you just planted one long row or something, then it's very likely you will have ears that when you pull them open, there's a bunch of missing rows of corn, a bunch of missing rows. That's incomplete pollination in your corn. And so that means you need to block it up more. You need to put it in a bigger block or something like this, so that they can, shake around, or you could detassel and, shake it around yourself. You could do that, but you shouldn't have to do that. And there's no, the timing of all that stuff. The plant knows when the timing is. So it's really difficult to mimic that stuff. Now that's how corn pollinates. So one of the unique things about corn is that you can cross-pollinate varieties in the same season. It's not like peppers, where you'll plant a bunch of peppers, and this happens all the time to people. It happened to me before I knew about this. You plant a bunch of different pepper varieties. Oh, this is great. I got 6 different kinds of peppers. We're stir frying, we're eating peppers, and I'm going to save seeds from the peppers so that I can, be more self-sufficient with it, and maybe select for the best ones and get really good seed. And you get seed from your peppers, and then the next year comes, you start them indoors, and you really care for them, and you're seeing them, nurturing them. They're getting big. You're peeking into the tent, looking. Oh, the peppers are so amazing. Oh, these are nice, big, pepper plants. I can't wait to enjoy some of these delicious peppers again. They were so good last year. And you go 6 to 8 months or whatever it is from the time you plant it until you're actually eating peppers, 6 months. And wow, look, and the plant is big and healthy. The peppers look nice and healthy, just like you remember. And then you go to bite into one and absolutely nothing, no flavor of any kind. Your spicy peppers have no spice at all. And your sweet peppers have just like no flavor, no sweetness. Nothing has any flavor to it. Everything is just meh. And you're like, what? And so you cut into another one all hopeful, and then you eat it, and oh, the same thing. And you go around to every single one of your save seed pepper plants, and nothing has any flavor at all, and no characteristics that are predictable. And that is the experience of cross-pollination. And that is the experience of saving seeds from peppers, unless you either get lucky or unless you seclude them. And a lot of times, so that's the thing, is that you can't tell until you go to eat them. Sometimes the plant will not be as vigorous, but often it will be just as vigorous as it would be otherwise. But the characteristics are lost because of the cross-pollination. And so you'll go all season and just be real upset when you go to harvest. And so you never forget that. You never forget that. And then you preach about it on any platform that you got, because you don't want others to have that crushing disappointment. I mean, relatively speaking, they're just peppers, but still, you nurture them for so long. So that's why I said if I was trying to save pepper seeds, I would get those hoop houses that I got with using the hoop bender, and I would put insect netting over the entire bed, and that would seclude it. That would seclude it enough, so long as you never lifted that stuff up. That would seclude it enough to keep the pollinators out and to keep cross-pollination from happening. And that's what a lot of big pepper growers do, if they're trying to save seeds. So that's an example of cross-pollination expressing itself in the next year. But corn will express itself in the same year. So if you planted a glass gem corn and then maybe a Fisher's Earliest sweet corn, and they're tasseling and silking at the same time, then they will cross-pollinate. And you will get, in your Fisher's Earliest corn, you'll get a bunch of weird brown, hard kernels, but a bunch of regular sweet kernels as well. And you'll be like, this doesn't make any sense. Or one row of brownish kind of colored kernels that are hard and fibrous, and then some other sweet kernels. So that is, and then in your glass gem corn, you'll get a bunch of bizarre stuff. So it cross-pollinates and expresses itself in that first year. So for that reason, we must only grow one kind of corn. It can be all sweet corn or all field corn. You understand the difference? This is not sweet corn. If you ate this, and I have tried, when you eat this when it's fresh, it's super tough and fibrous and not enjoyable. But you dry it like this and then use the Vitamixer or whatever grain mill you got and blitz it into a cornmeal. Then we make cornbread out of it. It is so delicious. It's like nutty flavored. Or grits. We make grits. I like my grits with maple syrup and butter. I know a lot of you guys in the South are going, that's not how you eat grits. You have to eat them with salt and pepper. It has to be savory. But it actually doesn't. In the North, at least here, we eat them sweet. And so these make a delicious grits. And they keep indefinitely. They keep. These are 2 years old, and they will keep for several more years. And we just planted a bunch of these. And so at the Viking North plot, we have a bunch of these planted, and they sprouted right away. So now, here's another very important thing. Yeah, Teets, whoops. Teets says, I bought seeds off eBay that were cross-pollinated one time. Yeah, exactly. That's why a lot of times new gardeners and stuff, and they'll want to do seed swaps. People will want to do seed swaps. I've been burned too many times. No. It's unless it's like beans or tomatoes or squash, you know, those things can express pollination, cross pollination effectively and stuff, but many things do not. And so I like to know what characteristics I'm getting, because that's what I garden for. I garden for to have distinctly different characteristics of things. So yeah, you got to be real leery of seed swaps, especially if somebody wants to give you their pepper seeds. You can almost guarantee that they have not done it properly, and they probably don't even notice, because they're just like, oh, the peppers, yeah, they grew fine and they were okay, you know. It might not even click to them, but that's what's happening. That's why there's no flavor. That's why they're just kind of not really desirable, you know. And so now I have another thing to say about the yes, this happens big times with jalapenos and other peppers. I mean, big time. Silver sage. No, I don't only plant one pepper. I've got like 10 different varieties of peppers out there, maybe even more. I buy seeds. I don't save seeds from peppers. It's not for me. Now, if I had to, if it went, you know, if the sky fell and Armageddon came and you couldn't get seeds, then sure, I would. Well, you'd have bigger fish to fry than worrying about the flavor of your peppers. That's for sure. So you know, that would be like a trivial sort of detail, but I would still probably just grow the Ivarski pepper, because the Ivarski is the one that is the best for paprika and also grilling. It's very good for grilling as well. It gets nice and sweet and fragrant. Put it on the grill, let the skin char. They're good. They're real good. Or you can saute them, and they're a lot of meat, a lot of meaty flesh that holds on to the smoke flavoring well. Because people are like, well, there's no calories in peppers, so that wouldn't be in my survival garden. No, believe me, guys, you want your stuff to taste good. If you want it to be palatable, to be enjoyable, you know, if things got really lean, the food, just like it has been for millennia, would be the focus of your life. And the flavor of it, the sharing of it, the cooking of it, the growing of it, the harvesting of it, because that's where the survival is happening, is in the food, you know. And that's where the thrival is happening, is in the food. And so you want that stuff to be, you know, making smoked paprika is not like trivial. That's very important, because the dishes that you make, think about how much the food will boost morale. Yeah. And I'm just talking the theoretical example. If things got really lean, you know, and times were kind of crazy, then good meal. Think of how, and I know this in my own life from traveling and from living in crazy situations, how no matter how difficult or like strenuous the day is, if you've got a good meal at the end of the day, it just makes everything all right. It just makes everything better, you know. And so that is of utmost importance. And so we would, if that happened, we would grow the Ivarski pepper. Yeah. And we wouldn't even, well, and probably the fish pepper for spice, or the lute shower maybe, but the fish pepper, guys, if you ain't growing the fish pepper, and who was it, Fisty? Was that the name? A local Fort Wayne guy gave me a fish pepper plant. I think it was last year, or it might have been the year before. And that was my first experience with the fish pepper. But wow, it's my favorite spicy pepper now, because it's each plant produces dozens and dozens of peppers that are about this long, and the variegated foliage. They're beautiful plants, but they also they have a type of heat that comes on really strong and then fades away fast. That's what I like, as opposed to like a jalapeno or something where you're eating it, or even cayenne, where you're eating it and it just keeps building and building, and it's hot, and all you taste is like the hotness, and it just, oh man, trying to cool down your mouth, and it just keeps lingering. I don't like that kind of heat. And that is varietal. That is varietal based. And so I like the fish pepper because it comes on strong. Ooh, boy, that's hot. But by the next bite, it's gone. It fades away. That's what I like in the cooking. So because we weren't raised with spice. If you're like Sri Lankan or Cambodian, that have got really hot cuisine, super spicy right from birth, then you're going to have a whole different palate. But for me, we don't like that kind of spice. So if I had to only grow the two varieties, I would grow the Ivarsky and the fish pepper, and I would seclude them with the netting to make sure that everything was fine. And that's what I would do, yes. So, but currently I'm growing a bunch of other kinds. Shishito peppers, because we like to fry those. I think it was Meyer Lemons, well, I know it was, that gave us the different varieties from Fruition before they sort of went out of business or whatever they did. And we're growing the Collage and the Violet Sparkles or whatever it is. And one more from them. We're also growing the hybrid, Just Sweet, the sweetest pepper that I ever had. But they're struggling. They're struggling from that insane spring that we had. We're also growing the HMS Red Picnic Pepper, which is another super sweet variety. So, yeah. Shishitos. And then at the Viking North plot, we're growing a bunch of different kinds of peppers. Sweet banana peppers, because Camille likes pickled, like pickled banana peppers. So we are doing that. And also just several varieties of bell peppers. Peppers are amazing. I mean, a wonderful joy of summertime. Yeah. So we get peppers basically for like late July through August and September. Yeah. And now I was going to say something else, but I forget. Ooh, Brian Airy says, Nate, I did a guided meditation in a group I belong to yesterday. Could not have done that without the knowledge and your training. Can't wait till you start up Thrive. Thanks. Man, Brian, that is awesome to hear. That is exactly, that's just why we do it right there. I mean, that's what it's all about. So he's talking about the Nate Murray channel, the Thrive channel, where we get deep into spirituality kind of things. And yes, I've been thinking of that as well. We got to start that back up because I miss talking with you guys like that. So we'll be starting that back up before too long, definitely. But I'm glad to see all you guys are still practicing the meditations and the practices on your own. Very important. It'll be awesome. Once we start back up again, then you'll realize you'll have a marker as to how you're progressing. You're like, wow, this is different than last time even. Let's see what VA Green has to say. When making compost tea, I've been taking the leftover granules in the filter bag and placing them underneath the straw in my beds. Next day, they're covered in mycelium. Yes, exactly. Me too. It's amazing stuff. That's exactly what I do. Put it in between the mulch and the soil. Very good. No, it's not too late, at least not here in northern Indiana. That's what I was going to say. Okay, so if you're going to plant corn, it's actually better to be, well, if you're going to plant corn and you're in corn country, because like we are in northern Indiana, there's just oceans of corn and soybeans. And so when you, now knowing what you know about how corn is wind pollinated and how it can be disrupted in the first year and it can express its cross pollination in the same year, you know that it's very important not to get it cross pollinated, especially with the Frankenstein GMO corn. Okay. So now the good thing is, so the Viking North plot is one, here's a road, a country road, and here is a huge several 100-acre industrial ag field of corn. And so is here, hundreds more acres, and so is here and here and here and here and here. Everywhere, hundreds of acres of industrial ag corn and soybeans. But this year, literally right across the street, so there's a road, and then here, about 1 acre this way, is our corn. So the good news is that corn only tassels and releases pollen for like a 2 to 3 week window, and then it's done. So if you time the plantings right, then the GMO monstrosity Frankenstein corn will have already long released its pollen and done its thing by the time your glass gem or your heirloom corn comes to time to tassel. So the varieties, especially because the varieties they plant now, that stuff is genetically engineered to grow fast, it can grow without water, it can grow without it just grows. It just boom, boom, grows. And it doesn't get as tall as the older varieties of corn used to, because that's been bred out of them. Because what's the need to develop all that infrastructure, meaning plant, when all you're after is the corn? For example, the glass gem will get 9 feet tall. It can get taller than that. I've seen it taller. I've had it taller than that. And yet it only produces 1 ear of corn. Some of them will produce 2. But most corn stalks only produce 1 ear, especially the heirloom varieties. And so it has to spend all that time making that big old 9-foot infrastructure before it produces the goods, the stuff that we want. So that has, understandably, on a commercial level, that has been bred out of it. Most of the corn now will produce 2 ears per stalk, and it produces it really fast, because the less time it's in the field, the less chance for error, the less chance for catastrophe. So it just grows really fast. So we waited until the corn was about 1.5 feet tall, give or take, and then we planted our corn. And that stuff's already like shoulder height or already super tall. Whereas ours is only like this big right now, but it grows every day. You can literally see corn grow. It's in the grass family, so it grows like grass. It grows fast. But we totally missed that window, so we're going to be just fine. That's why we don't. Or you can build a huge partition in some way, which would be a nightmare and not really that effective. But time your planting. That's the best way to do it. So look to nature. Jay Dixon's got a new name. What? Taylor Reindl, $10. Thank you, guys. Thank you, my friend. I just sifted 5 wheelbarrows of compost. Any ideas what to do with it besides compost tea? Should I save for spring top dressing? 5 wheelbarrows of compost. That is amazing. So there's several things that you could do with it. The very best of all is compost tea. And that's definitely the best. So but I mean, 5 wheelbarrows is a lot, depending on your garden size. But you can just save it and add every time that you plant, or every time that you add the Viking granular or whatever, just add some compost as well, because it's going to have those microorganisms to top everything off. So every time you plant something, put a couple handfuls of the compost in there. That is what it loves. It just re-ups and makes sure that everything is inoculated with all of the appropriate microorganisms that we need. Yeah. So you could also, for outdoor seed starting, you could also, if you're going to start the fall garden pretty soon, which most of us will be doing, then you can add that in place of the worm castings for the outdoor garden. I don't use compost anymore in the indoor seed starting because too many issues, too much wildness, which is fine for the outdoors when you've got the power of the elements, the full sun, the wind, all of that good stuff. It's not a problem. But when you're trying to start seeds indoors, like in the basement in a clean environment, compost is not what you want to be using, in my experience. You just open yourself up to all kinds of issues, molds and fungus and tons of mites and all kinds of little insects. They're in there, of course, which is fine outdoors because it all just kind of balances out. But indoors is not what you want. So that's what I would do. Now, you also could make compost extract if you really wanted to. Compost extract is actually more concentrated than compost tea. So if you've got that much, you should make some compost extract, which is really nice, really, really good stuff. And water in with that. Definitely they will like that. A lot more nutrients in the compost extract than there is in the compost tea. The compost, because remember, in the compost, in the brewing process, we cannot multiply the nutrients. We never can multiply nutrients in the brews. We can only multiply the life that's in the brews, which is significant. But a lot of people think that they will multiply the nutrients, but that can't happen. 2 + 2 is always 4. You can't get more than that. So, but the living things like the microorganisms, absolutely, we can multiply many times over. Nice. I'm from Texas and I eat sweet grits. It's settled. It's settled. Matt says, I bought chocolate habanero seeds from Joe's Peppers and they never germinated. Other seeds I bought from them did. Bad batch of seeds? You know, that depends on how experienced are you with germinating peppers. How experienced are you with germinating things? Because peppers can be tricky to germinate. They have to have that heat. If you let them sit in a cool basement or something, they're just not going to germinate. But if you put them on that heat mat at 85 degrees, then they're going to germinate in 2 weeks, give or take, 10 days, you know? But they got to have that heat. So I don't know what you did or what the soil mix was like or if they rotted in there, but definitely if they didn't have the heat, then that's probably why. But yeah, it could definitely be a bad batch of seeds as well. Maybe that batch of seeds somehow got left in for a little while in direct sunlight, and that is enough to sterilize the seeds. If they're in direct sunlight, then boom, they get to 150 degrees in that package and they're dead. Nancy Dewald, $10. Thank you, my friend. Says, have a happy Saturday. Yes, you too. Thank you again for the consistent contribution. I appreciate this. Hope you had a good birthday. I think it was last week. Is that right? Yes. Look to Nature says, my Oxycon Jewel tomato from Baker Creek Seeds is turning out to be a cherry of some sort and definitely not a slicer. Yeah, you know, I got some hillbilly tomato seeds this year from not from Baker Creek, from a different company, and I'm having my doubts that they are the giant slicer that I had last year at Jerry Bates' farm, because they're like this big and there's a bunch of them, you know, so they just don't look like they're going to be those massive giant. I mean, the plant is thick stalk on it, just huge, but they don't look like the ones. They don't look like they're going to produce. Jerry's tomatoes were like this big, you know, and that's whatever. I mean, that's the variety is supposed to be that big. So it's and it's not for lack of nutrients. That's for sure. Yes. Timmy says, I've had zucchini and spaghetti squash hybridized, made zucchinis with more stringy structure. Yeah. Yeah. It's you know, that happens. I mean, that definitely happens with the seeds. And so a lot of people, it depends on what you want out of your seeds. You know, like I read the Joseph Lofthouse book and stuff, and I the land race gardening and the locally adapted seeds and all of that. And it's sound logic, definitely, and obviously it's working for him. But it depends on what your goals are. You know, it depends on what you're selecting for. If you're selecting strictly for hardiness, as he is, then that method works really well. Because obviously, if you're not selecting for any other trait, basically, than hardiness, then yes, that is the way to do it. But if you're selecting for all sorts of other traits, you know, flavor, visual appeal, storage capabilities, all these other kind of things, then I feel like that's not necessarily the way. At least for me, it's not. Because I've done that so many times in the past, and just it morphs into something that's totally unpredictable, and you can't rely on it to produce the same thing that you know. Then you know how to store, you know how to fertilize, you know how to cook with it, you know what its flavor profile is, all of that kind of stuff. Money Roller. That was your name before, right? That's what I thought. Anyone know why my name, Jay's, and some others have changed? I went to my channel, no edit button. Yeah, sometimes it just must have changed your handle. I don't know. Hmm. Yeah, it is. It really is. AK Froggy says the Ivarsky is the prissiest princess pepper of all. Pretty much, I know. I mean, well, they're just no peppers are really all that hardy to me, but it's worth it for the flavor. It is amazing. The flavor profile is just awesome. Signal Loss says, like people who say, what, you're going to rely on Social Security? I always think, dude, if there's no Social Security, then there are bigger problems in your life. Yeah, there's a lot of that. Well, if you guys are in the know of like gold prices, if you're into gold and silver, you know that they're both, well, not silver, but they're both at near historic highs. You know, gold is like $3,400 an ounce right now, and silver is like $36 an ounce right now. 10 not even 10 years ago, it was $14 an ounce. And so yeah, not even like 8 years ago, it was $14 an ounce. But a lot of people were like, yeah, man, I got 20 ounces of gold. So, man, if it goes to $10,000 an ounce, I'm going to be sitting pretty. And I'm like, guys, if gold goes to $10,000 an ounce, you got way bigger things to worry about, because that means society is in a free fall collapse. The monetary system of society is in a collapse. So they don't understand what gold is and what money is, and how the value of gold has not changed. It never changes. The only thing that changes is the amount of currency required to acquire that amount of gold, which in the 30s was just that much currency. Now that same ounce of gold is $3,400 instead of $12 or whatever it was when we were on the gold standard, $30 something. So yeah, similar kind of thing, but a lot of people, because there's a lot of that talk right now. Hey man, I'm hoping Bitcoin goes to $1 million. I'm saying, well, okay, something seriously will be wrong with the money system you rely on for that to happen. So it's a good indicator. Gold and silver are good indicators of what is going on, even though the markets are manipulated, of course, to a degree. But yeah. Yeah. This must be Jay. Texas Organic TV. Because coming with that helpful information right away. So, yeah, so you guys are Signal Loss. I want to see that. It says my Ivarskis and Cayenne have just gone off. I'll have to put up pics on Discord. Not sure what I did different. Just conditions this year and another year of soil building. Gone off in a good way? You mean like popped off? That would be awesome. Oh, yeah. Beck says, I will always be thankful to Nate for recommending lime basil. That is my most favorite thing in the garden right now. The fragrance is something I look forward to every season over everything else. Guys, that's not an overstatement. That is not an exaggeration. It is that amazing. I don't know what it is, but there's something about it that is like in the back of your spinal cord is just like, oh, yes. And so we've got, it's flanked. The stairs out front are flanked with mostly lime, some lemon basil. Yes. Some lemon basil, but I'm finding the lemon basil is very good, but it smells just like lemons, you know, and it smells like lemon balm. If you put up lemon basil to me and lemon balm, it'd be hard pressed to decide which one was which. Lime basil, on the other hand, is totally unique among anything else. It's just different. Yeah, very different. So, but we'll see. We'll see, because we got them both planted. Yeah. So, oh man, AK Froggy says, yeah. So the Ivarsky is most sensitive to the slightest chill. Many of mine are stunted, while other varieties appear to be more hardy. Yes, the Ivarsky, that's the worst part about it. If it even thinks it's going to remotely, it just is horrible. If it even gets below 45, the Ivarski is just stunted. And they're small plants to begin with, though. They're only 2-foot by 2-foot plants. But if you've watched videos of my years past, I've had Ivarski pepper or plants that are like maybe 3 feet tall at most, 3 feet wide in a cage, and like 10 huge peppers hanging off each one. Just amazing. And that stuff is the best, in my opinion. Yeah. Look to nature. What do you like to do with it? The Hungarian wax is the one pepper I cannot do without. What do you like to do with it? Yes, Timmy says, Nate, when's the next travel video? Speaking of other channels, yeah, that has had to take a back seat, of course, because we got so many other things going on. That 80-20 rule, you gotta know what is most effective use of your time, and you have to really trim the fat off of the other things in your life. And so that sort of leads me into what I need you guys' advice about. So here's the thing, is that the YouTube isn't really doing it for me anymore in terms of the channel just doesn't make money anymore. Yeah, which is unfortunate. The first couple of years, it was great. It was like, oh yeah, enough to pay all the bills and to do experiments and to save some money. I could full-time do that. And it lulls in the wintertime, but then in the summertime, it ramps up and it's like 6 months of good, paydays. This year, that has not happened at all. It is just still like the dead middle of winter. Nothing. No video I put out does anything. It doesn't matter. The AI, trying to use TubeBuddy and all that stuff. I look at all the statistics. I try to optimize for keywords and search. None of that makes any difference at all. You're either in favor of the algorithm or you're out of favor of the algorithm. And that's all that matters. Either YouTube recommends your stuff or it doesn't. If it doesn't, then you crash and you don't get any money. If it does, then you're, oh man, nice. You get plenty, it's good times. But so I'm going to have to look at that 80-20 rule and see, it takes a lot of energy, to think about, okay, what's the videos for this week, and then to film them and then to edit them. And I mean, it takes hours to do all that, hours, and then post it and stuff. And then 4,000 views, you make like $40 or like $30 for the video. And you're like, man, that's like $1 an hour. It's like, it just doesn't, it's not working, at this point. And so I'm really focusing on other things that are coming, primarily courses, of course, because for me, that's what I see is going to be the next route. Because if the whole thing's not making money, we're not making video, we're not doing any of this. We can't, we have to like get a job of or not a job, but like we have to do something else, So we're sort of at that point. But I see the courses are the avenue that I'm taking now, because I see that that's what's right for me. And it is, but it's a huge undertaking. It's like writing a book. I mean, making successful courses is a massive undertaking. And so I want you guys' advice on what are things that you would like to see in courses. What should be included? What kind of tips, what kind of things that you want to see? So put it in the comments, please, in the comments after the fact, or in these comments as well. I will go through and read them. But I need to know, like, what are some content ideas? What are things that stump you about gardening? What are things that would make, if you had this kind of knowledge or practice or practices, what would make you more successful? I already know what I think it is, and that's how I'm structuring everything. But I want to know from you guys. So what would you like to see more of? Like what do you feel would help you become a better grower? Because that's what it's all about. Is it soil preparation type stuff? It can't possibly be more fertilizers. There's no need for more fertilizers. In the courses, I'm going to show the refined version of what I've made. After these years of working with thousands of people and comments and all this stuff, I know exactly what kind of problems you guys are having. And all that stuff is in the courses now, because I can't just be giving everything away, for virtually free on YouTube videos anymore. It just doesn't work. You know, especially when even like tribe members are like, hey, well, guys, hey, everybody should be using ad block so you don't have to see any ads. You know, so then it's truly, you get zero compensation, you know, truly zero. So it's kind of like that's just where we're at. So what do you think? I would like some feedback as far as what do you think, and what do you think other people would like to see? Many of you are already very experienced with growing now. Many of you probably have all the skills that you would need. What do you think, what was new to you when you were new to it all? What did you need? Or if you could go back, here you go. If you could go back, and you guys let me know, if you could go back and talk to your beginning gardener self, what would you tell them? What would you say? Hey, guess what? You're going to worry and stress about things like, you know, electroculture. You're going to worry and stress about things that are really insignificant. You know, whatever. I can't think of things right now, but you know, you need to focus more on this. Like you're going to stress about your seeds not being regionally adapted to your area, and you're going to think that that's why you failed, when in reality that has nothing to do with it. It has everything to do with the fact that your soil microbiome, your watering practices, your yada yada yada. It could save you lots of time and energy. You know, what would be the things? I know what I see from you guys, but I want to hear from you guys. What are the things? And so, what advice, if you could speak to 100,000 people, what would you say to them about gardening? Okay, there's another question. If you could just speak to 100,000 people, what would you want them to know about growing food, food security, growing food, the ups and downs, the pitfalls, all of that kind of stuff? You can put them in the comments here. Also, like I've been saying, I'm going to get way more involved in the Discord chat here, because the courses are becoming a reality here. The courses are totally different, guys. It's, you know, here in my videos, I've never scripted a single video. I've never scripted out anything. I just freestyle everything. And that's one way of doing it that's really good, and I love it. Yeah. But the courses are concentrated, distilled knowledge. All the knowledge. I'm not trying to play games with, guys, if you watch to the end, then I might give you another little tidbit of knowledge. But please watch to the end, and please, you know, thumbs up and like and all this stuff. No, here is all the concentrated knowledge distilled. And so it will be very different like that. But for that reason, I actually have now, I'm writing them out. The courses, I write them out. So that, and then I read them. I have a teleprompter now, and so I read it, you know, in my style. I write them, but it makes it so that nothing is repeated. There's no unnecessary words. It's just pure value. That's what I feel like is really important. So yeah, and all the courses you see will be 100% original. That none of it is repurposed YouTube videos. Okay. So that is what I want you guys' advice on. Okay. Ooh, that's a good one. Help gardening only in pots and containers. Definitely, yes. That is a very good one. Oh man, Teets, that's the one right there. That is the one that I would tell myself. It would have saved me hours back in the day. Don't even bother worrying about pH. It's not pH. Whatever problem you think you're having is not pH. No, it's definitely something else. Look to nature. I'd like to have you go through your garden timeline from garlic planting through fall harvest. Yes, and that's essentially what we're doing this year. That's why the first set of courses has to take the whole year, because we're filming it all right now. So many things that we're filming right now. For example, guys, look at this stuff, man. We got these things coming in. Super delicious. Look at these gherkins, half sour dill pickles, huh? Half sour dill pickles with fresh coriander seeds from the garden, black pepper, the pioneer cucumbers, some fresh dill from the garden, and some oak leaves from the neighbor's tree. So these are just starting to ferment. Here's what they look like after about a week of fermentation. So you see the color change, definitely. And you see, do you see the bubbles? Watch. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but it's effervescent now, and it's leaking because these lids, I like, these lids are good for fermentation because they leak. If you're trying to actually store stuff, they're horrible, but they leak water and pressure. So I put these on there, and the stuff bubbles up, and it just spills over. So, and it keeps all the gnats out and stuff like that. So these are going to be delicious, guys. And this is what we're doing right now. We are harvesting these, and we are fermenting these. Now, this is a different recipe here, a time-tested one that I've been doing for many years. Super delicious. But there's a difference. There's a difference in the amount of salt that is used. These are like a half sour, and they're just for a short fermentation. These are more like winter pickles. Like, you use a lot more salt in these, but therefore they keep for a really long time, like a real long time. And here's what we do, though. We got the Pioneer cucumber plants that you saw. I sprayed the J-Dom on a couple of times. It's totally cured the downy mildew, or at least stopped it. And check it out. Here's how we like to harvest them, just like this. Yeah. And then soak them in ice water for about an hour or two. And that helps to maintain really firm, a really firm texture. These Pioneer cucumbers, I can hardly even see any male flowers. It's almost all female flowers. It's just cucumbers, just cucumbers, one right after the other. The whole thing is just overflowing with cucumbers. So it's awesome. And the plants are not even close to being full size. But this really helps. I found picking them when they're young and then soaking them in ice water for about an hour or 2 hours, and then fermenting them right away that same day. Don't pick them and then wait, and then tomorrow you'll get to it. Oh, and then the next day you get to it, you'll have mushy pickles. If you pick them and pickle them that same morning within hours, and you pick it in the morning, of course, always pick all your produce in the morning if possible, then that is what is going to be the best. You're going to have the best chance of success with that method. Yeah. Nice. Gary Smith, $50. Thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate the contribution. I hope you got the package. You might have been gone. You might have been gone. I dropped off your cooler, and I dropped off the good stuff, a whole 5-gallon bucket of the most primo leaf mold that you can find. I hunted that stuff down specifically for you. So all of your ferments will have the best in it. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. If you haven't been home, so you're in the Outer Banks, so it might just still be sitting by your front door. That was like 3 days ago. So thank you, my friend. Let's see here. Okay, Alex Forgay, $10. Thank you, my friend. Says, good morning, Nate. Good morning, Alex. So on straining my compost tea, do I line a paint strainer with the silk screen, or how do you do it? Thank you, my brother. And good morning to the Viking tribe. Yes. Okay, so the way that I like to do it is it depends on the amount that you have. But you can take the paint strainer, and hopefully you got the 30-pack or the 50-pack for $30. Great deal. And it's in the Viking storefront. And put it in a 5-gallon bucket, because it's got the elastic. So put it around the 5-gallon bucket, and then pour the stuff through that. All right. And then that's pretty much good enough for most things. If you're doing a pump spray, like a submersible pump for a large garden, that's going to be fine enough. But if you're using something like this amazing backpack sprayer from Bootstrap, then you need to filter it more fine. So you need to get the silk screen that is also in the Viking storefront. And I just cut squares, little like 2-foot squares of it. And I will show you real quick. This is how I do it, because you need that stuff to be filtered real fine. And if you don't filter it fine, then you're going to have issues, because it's going to clog up that pump sprayers, those fine little mechanisms on the sprayers. So here's what I like to do. Now, look here. See, I missed these. These cucumbers are too big for pickling. They'll be soft. And so I'm going to use them for probably juicing this afternoon. It claims that it's a hybrid, that it's both slicing and pickling, but the slicing isn't really all that good. They're not like the Market More cucumbers, that's for sure. Okay, but I will use something like this, okay? A mesh strainer, and set this over the 5-gallon bucket, and then just put that sheet of screen over it, and then pour from the 5-gallon bucket that was already once strained, remove the strainer, then pour that through this and that into a new 5-gallon bucket. It sounds complicated. It's not really, though. You just use the paint strainer in the bucket and then put this over another bucket, and if you're like me, you've got buckets everywhere. So there's plenty of buckets. And that's the way to do it. So put it over that and then strain it through, and then it's ultra fine. It will not clog your stuff for sure. And then you can wash it and reuse it if you would like. If you don't have time to mess with that and it's all gummed up, you can just dispose of them because they're real small, and you got about 70 cents in materials for that whole thing. And if you only do one a week, yeah. Taylor Reindl, $10. Thank you, my friend. Says, is now a good time to top dress around plants with the Viking nutrients? Yes, it depends. If it's a full season plant like tomatoes, I would give it a little bit more time. Give it another couple of weeks, because we're really only just beginning summer. So a good time to top dress would be like the last week of a full season plant would be like the middle of July, give or take. Another couple of weeks is the good time. I mean, it wouldn't hurt right now, but it's like you don't want to hit the NOS button too soon. You want to wait to the right time, and that's going to be in another couple of weeks. Or if you're planting for the fall garden, at time of planting, whenever you plant anything, at time of planting, a small handful of the Viking granular. That's what you want. Yeah. Oh, thank you. $2. Thank you, Texas Organic. So it's not Jay. Okay, my bad. Says, thanks. My first time here. Fun and informative. Yes, definitely. Welcome. Okay. Oh, Alex Forgay, another $5. Thank you, my friend. Sorry about that. Yeah, it got lost in the mix, and then I just went to the section where it shows me the starred. There's a section I can press on where it shows me just the starred ones, the donation ones. So I have to remember to switch back to that so I can see. But hopefully that solved it for you. Hopefully that's how you do it. But again, if you're just filtering it for it to go into a submersible pump, you don't really have to worry about it. But if you're going to do it into a small pump, then yes, you need to. Yeah. Yes, Big Wes. I know, that's a great, it says book sales add up, Nate. Multiple books of different topics is a solid shot at some royalties you can enjoy for years. I know, it definitely is. For me, though, a course is like a book, as far as, well, it's like a book, except I have control over everything. There's when I was looking into writing books and all that kind of stuff about all this, there's so much involved, and you don't have as much control over things. Now with the courses, I control every aspect. Yes, it's like college level course that you have to learn all this stuff about Facebook ads and YouTube ads and all of this, all the platforms and all. There's a lot, but if you take it one bite at a time, and I have been for a year already, then we're pretty much there. So it will be similar. It's like a book in that sense. It's an asset, electronic asset. But I used to think that the internet was going away. Several years ago, I used to think that the grid collapse and all of that was imminent, but I don't think that way anymore. I actually don't. When I've seen how much importance and money is placed on AI infrastructure, the internet and the grid is here to stay. I mean, it is here to stay. So it is, and again, it's like, oh yeah, but if the grid goes down, then you'd have a book. You got bigger fish to fry, man. You got way bigger things to worry about if the grid goes down. Way bigger. So yeah, It's so that's a very, very true though. And so the course is like a hybrid book video, you know? Oh, mom computer, that's a perfect. Smells fantastic. I used to go out and smell it just to raise my vibration and attitude. I like that, definitely. Very true. So Alvin says, "Isn't pH more of a synthetics issue?" Yes, it is, and that's where most people get confused. Is that if you contact your local extension office and ask them, your local extension, what are they an extension of? They're an extension of the industrial ag complex, and so they follow the same playbook. They will tell you the first thing you got to do is get a soil test so you know what you're working with. You got to get your NP and K established and your pH. And then, based upon your soil test, you got to start manipulating all those things. And you got to add lime, or you got to add sulfur, or you got to add this, and you got to add more, blah, 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 blah. And all of that is industrial ag farming, where you treat the soil as a soilless growing medium. You treat the soil not as a living entity, a living, breathing, growing, evolving cycle of life. You treat it as an inert medium for you to grow plants and then make money from them, essentially. And so that requires chemicals. Once you start adding chemicals and chelates, things that are locked into a certain form that the plant can use no matter the pH, it changes things. And so yes, then once you start manipulating the pH, then you do have to think about it and worry about it, definitely. Okay. But when we use organic systems, we don't have to worry about that. We really don't. And remember, we've got the cool experiment this year with the blueberries, and so far there's no difference between the ones that is heavily pH'd and amended with the Viking granular, and the one that is not. And so far there's no difference, you know. But it's still the roots have barely even gone out into the outside environment. Let's see here. Okay. Owen Nelson says, bought the aerator system you recommended for the tea. Works awesome. But the pump I had to spray it on the garden failed so hot, so had to water by hand. Appreciate all your garden wisdom and advice. Definitely. You're very welcome. And that happens. That definitely happens, but the pump is super important. And you can go one of a couple routes. You can either get the really good one that I have in the Viking storefront, the stainless steel one that is powerful. Or you can, but it's like $200, I think, $215, but it's really good and really robust. Or you can go the route of buying more often a smaller one for like $60. You can buy one and they'll break. You know, they'll get clogged, they'll break, you throw them away. Next year, you buy another $60 one, you know, like that. So it's a toss up. But I like to buy better gear. I just do. At this point in life, I just buy better gear. Look at these cute little things, man. These are going to be delicious. These dill pickles, man, if you could smell them, they just smell wonderful. Let's see real quick. Oh, yeah. Strong notes of dill. And now they're getting soured. So you can smell the sourness. Yeah, Alvin says, it's a shame YouTube isn't doing well for you. Yeah, it's is what it is. You know, it doesn't really matter. We just got to pivot and adjust and adapt and thrive like we always have and will. So we just have to pivot, you know, and see. But that's, you know, if you notice, I didn't make a video this week. And so there might be a lot more of that, you know, as I have to focus my time on other things, like getting the studio ready for filming. Oops. Guys, if you are B. Hendricks, I would like to see that recipe. Says my grandma makes a 9-day pickle that stays crisp and crunchy forever. Fermented or with like pickle crisp? You know, if you're using, what is it, potassium chloride, then yeah, they're going to stay crispy. But is it truly like natural fermented pickles? Because most people at this point, they don't do it the old way. This is the old way. Now they use, you know, pickle crisp and vinegar. And by now, I mean the past 70 years, you know. They were using that pickle crisp, potassium chloride or whatever chloride it is in the 50s, you know, to keep it crisp. But you can put in some oak leaves, you know, or horseradish leaves, which we're going to harvest this Monday when we go out to the Viking North plot. So guys, do you remember several weeks ago when I was talking about, you know, I still hadn't made the trellis for the ground cherries, you know, and everyone is like, oh, Nate, you should know better. You don't got to trellis ground cherries. That's why they're called ground cherries. They just grow and they just sprawl on the ground. I probably had half a dozen or like a dozen people tell me that through messages and stuff. And I was like, okay, but I know that it's better with the trellis. But I was just like, part of it was because I was overwhelmed with a lot to do. Part of it was because I couldn't figure out in this new bed configuration exactly how to build them properly. So, and I was just like, all right, well, I'm just going to let it go and see what it does this year, I guess. And everyone on the channel gave me, you know, such sound advice that, hey, you don't need to, silly. You don't need that. And now guess what? Now the ground cherries are 4 feet tall and huge, sprawling all over the place, flopping all over the place, a huge, thick mass. The stalks on them as thick as my thumb, just sprawling, tangled up all over. They're going to be a total nightmare to try to get to. Just hundreds of ground cherries all over them. They're literally this tall. And so, and they're all going to flop over, and they're already flopping over and stuff. So yeah, okay. So if you got like little tiny ground cherries that are malnourished and stuff, little plants like that, okay. But if you've got these monstrosity of plants, then I should have just done it because I knew better. It's best to trellis them. I've trellised them before with a like a V shape. I forget what we used before. It was, I don't think it was the lath. It might have been the lath, but we had it going this way. We had the plant like this, and then the trellis was like this, okay? And so that the plant grew up and sort of fell onto the trellis, and the berries or the cherries fall through the support. And so it keeps mostly the plant up where the cherries fall to the ground, and you can just harvest that way. So the plant does not need a trellis, you know, like a bean, like a pole bean or something. But if you do it this way, it's way easier to harvest. So now instead, I've just got this thick, massive, tangled up mess of huge Jurassic ground cherry plants. So I don't know what I'm gonna do about that. So just letting you guys know, when you were talking about that I did need trellis. Yes, thank you, Sylvia. Says those pickles look delicious. Definitely, they're going to be good. They're going to be good. And the key to crispness is picking them young, early in the morning, and fermenting them that day. Very important. Ooh, that's a good one. Jay Bremer says, my number one thing would have been start off with raised beds. There are too many weeds when planting in the ground. Get overwhelmed by weeding the garden. You don't have that problem with raised beds. Yes, we are focusing that on the course. I'm distilling, you know, there's all different kinds of methods and stuff, but in the first set of courses, it's all about what works, what I am doing myself, because it works. And not to have to, there's plenty of videos on YouTube about the market garden style. Well, you just put down, you know, truckloads of cardboard, and then you put down more truckloads of compost, you know, in wheelbarrows, and then that's how you do it, you know. That is not the best system. That works for market gardeners. That works for Richard Perkins, who literally orders, you know, dozens and dozens of dump truck loads of compost every year. And so that works for those kind of people, market gardens. But this is totally different. And so the courses are going to exemplify what I know just works. And so it's going to be using, there's several different techniques, but we're not even going to get into like the market garden, put down cardboard and then truckloads of compost over it, because those people have already baked into their program the cost. Market gardening is all about profit margins, of course. And so those people have already got costs factored into that. But when you try to translate it to the food security garden, that's not the way to go. How are you going to buy truckloads of compost? So the way to go is this way, these other ways. So Sparks Willie, yeah, everyone's got different names today, don't they? So, because I recognize your pictures, but not the names really. So the oak leaves, they have a compound in them called tannins, and it helps to keep the pickle very crisp. If you don't do it, there's a noticeable difference in the crispness of the pickle. Everybody wants a good crisp pickle. Mushy pickles, turn them into relish. Just blend them up, but and strain them out. But the oak leaves, tannins are like, have you ever been to like the rivers in the UP, for example, or in Northern California, but mostly like in the UP is where a good example. The rivers there are crystal clear. And then like in the fall time, they'll run like a reddish, kind of tan reddish color and stuff because all the leaves are falling in to them. Not every river, but I remember this distinctly from backpacking over the years there. And those are tannins, and that is the chemical compound. Yeah, that's what colors that. And so, but you won't have nearly enough to color the water, but it will help to keep it crisp. Yeah. Oh, teats, just forget about it. Done it. How long until we harvest our ginger? As long as possible. You want to wait until as long as possible. I mean, we've got at least 3 months. We've got all of July, all of August, all of September, and the first frost typically comes the second week of October. And so we will probably harvest it then. We'll harvest it right before frost because it's not like the other plants where it has a life cycle. The ginger will just keep growing and growing and growing and putting out more rhizomes and growing and putting out more rhizomes. So it doesn't like cycle and die and then sprout new. So you want it to go as long as possible. So wait until the threat of frost is coming, which might be a long time for you in San Francisco. Definitely. Val says, if I could go back 4 years to my first gardening year, I'd pay more attention to building the soil and compost. Definitely. Yes, building the soil. That's what I'm emphasizing as well in the courses, is that so many people, especially from my channel, want to focus on what liquid fertilizer to give everything when that's not where it's at. Those are just additional things. You want the base fertilizer. Super important. Fermented garlic scapes, guys. When you ferment garlic or garlic scapes, it's they get sweet. They get real sweet for some reason. And so, like last night, we had pad caprao. We had like a pork and Thai basil dish, which was super delicious. And when I stir fried it in the oil, we used some fish peppers, which are not quite spicy yet. We used some fish peppers, we used some garlic, and then we used a couple spoonfuls of fermented garlic scapes, and let that oil get infused with all of the flavors before we then put the pork and then in the end the basil, pastured pork, into the basil. And so yes, it was super delicious. And these are going to keep for a long time, but it mellows out the garlic flavor. It's not, when you ferment garlic, I don't know how much you guys have experience with it, but it is not the same as like, it loses its sharpness, that's for sure. And so, but it's really good. It's a good way to preserve them. But me and Camille were talking yesterday, and we prefer the way that Mom Computer said, and just blend them up, make it into a puree with olive oil and scapes. And I put salt in there. But that's the way I think I'll do it. But then you got to freeze it, or refrigerate it. So So and the garlic scapes, you can now, it's been 6/11, it's been since the 11th, so they're about time to put into the refrigerator. The longer you ferment it, the more the sharpness of the garlic goes away, and the more the sort of semi-sweetness flavor comes about. But we'll see. So I just saw a notification pop up because I'm on the computer of Viking Uncle said he would like some. Now, we ended up being able to make like 4 of these. Yes, we're going to give you one as per our agreement. So we will give you one of these, and you'll be able to experiment with it. But the thing about them is that it takes a boatload to make a small amount of garlic scapes, and it takes even more when you blend it up the way Mom Computer suggested. It takes a lot to make it, but I'm liking it. I'm liking it. So, guys, a couple more things. One, this stuff definitely kills mosquitoes. So I did a video on it where there was a bucket that from rainwater infested with thousands of mosquito larvae, and I dumped a small handful of this in there, and about 6 hours later, every one of them is dead. It's pretty amazing. So that stuff really works. It's no joke. $5. Thank you very much. Teets says, it doesn't freeze here. Cut and come again forever. I keep my greenhouses over 50 all winter with a 1,000-watt light. It doesn't freeze there, huh? So it's going to struggle. I mean, if it gets even close to freezing, it's going to, if it drops below 40, it's going to struggle hard. If it drops below 50, it's not going to like it, you know? So it's not, yeah, I mean, if you kept it in your greenhouse, definitely you could have a batch going. It would just keep producing rhizomes, you know, all year. And if you know the old rhizomes, the biggest ones, then you could bust off a thing and use that. Yes, you could. It's in its native environment, it just grows, it just spreads by rhizome. It's almost kind of like a weed. So it just spreads and grows. So yeah, you could definitely, you could have a pot of it that grows for a long time there. Alvin says, well, the thing is, all the liquid fertilizers should be building up the soil as well. So those are important. The thing is, most people are probably only going to have a few. I have 30 buckets. Hey, I feel you. That's how I was several years ago with buckets everywhere. We cleaned all that stuff up, though, streamlined the whole process. But absolutely, all that stuff is building soil. Definitely, it's helping. I mean, it's actually technically not building soil. If you look up soil building, it is a plant-driven process whereby carbon dioxide and sunlight are used to pump sugars into the ground, carbon into the ground, basically. So only a living root can build soil in the technical sense, adding carbon to the soil structure. And so cover crops is definitely a good way to go. But I've settled on green manures. Green manures is the best of the best in my experience because you're getting both. And you only have a very brief window where there's no living root in the ground. And so that soil recovers so fast, the green manures. And that's what I will be showing extensively in the courses, different ways. But I feel you with them 30 buckets, definitely. That's a great question. Big Will Dog says, Nate, how has your evolving garden philosophy changed your channel or vice versa? Yeah, that's a really good question. I would have to think on that a little bit. But the first thing that comes to mind is that I'm gardening more now like I did in Northern California, as far as the primary factor is not free. What's free? You know, when I first came back, everything had to be basically free. So there was a lot of that. But now that is not the guiding factor. Now the guiding factor is growing as much produce as nutrient dense as possible and as nourishing as possible. So that will cost a bit more money, definitely. Like for the bat guano, the seabird guano, that stuff is super expensive, but very effective. So, that kind of changes the philosophy when your goals shift. Your goal is nourishing your body, yourself and your family, nourishing that to the highest degree possible. Then it doesn't matter so much. Really, ultimately, it doesn't matter at all, because how are you going to put a price on that? If you're thriving and healthy, how are you going to put a price on that? So things like the Viking granular and stuff, guys, the garden is just exploding. The onions are like 4 feet tall. Everything is just exploding, and that's all we've used is the Viking granular. We've only used a couple of the aerated teas and only a couple of the guano solutions, just to make sure that everything's got its immunity up there. But man, and that's what I mean. When you do the soil right, everything else is just an addition, And so, yeah, there's that's if I was being interviewed, I could go on and on about that, actually. But that's a great question. Thank you. Alvin K says, garlic confuses me. I hear it takes 6 months and you need to know which variety to grow and overwinter versus not. Now, I don't have any experience. If there's a variety that you don't overwinter, I don't have any experience with it. So it's garlic takes, you plant garlic at Halloween, between Halloween and Thanksgiving. And then you harvest it about the 4th of July, you harvest it. Now, if you're in the South, further, like in Tennessee, the Tennessee plot with the family there, they harvested theirs about a month ago. So the harvest window, but the planting window is going to be about the same. Yeah. So the further south you are, the later you can plant it. But it's a bulb. And so it wants to grow just a little bit, but then it wants to overwinter, store the nutrients and the energy, and then explode in the springtime. Now, you can plant spring garlic, and I did do that for several years here. You can plant spring garlic, and it will harvest. You will get some harvest, but it won't be it's not the same. It will not store as long. It won't be as pungent. It just isn't as, vigorous and stuff. Yeah, no, I know. Dusty Flats, 4 feet tall. The greens, they're too big. It's too ridiculous. But also, many of them are bolting. Also, many of them are flowering, because I planted them the same time I have the past 5 years here. But we experienced that ridiculously cold, like 3 weeks of just in the teens or 20s every day, and that is not. So the onion thought that it went through a winter. Some of them, not all of them. I'd say 20% of them, though. 10 to 20% are bolting, and as soon as they start bolting, they are they stop bulbing and they turn to wood. Basically, they get kind of woody. So we're going to harvest those pretty soon, about 3 weeks early. They still got good bulbs on them. Everything. If I harvested everything right now, I'd be happy, because they're still good sized bulbs on everything. But to get the truly best, probably I'd say 10, 15%. I don't really know exactly yet, but because we had such a brutal spring. So the only thing I could have done different was just plant them a little bit later. But the past 5 years, I haven't needed to do that. But you always have a couple of them that bolt. At least I do. When they're in a super rich environment, that also can be conducive to them sort of bolting. But it's the cold, for sure. So, but yeah, I mean, tall, amazingly tall, and thick and vigorous. That's right. VA Green sounds like organic California growing to me. Definitely. Aerated teas, the bat guanos, the good stuff. You're not really thinking about, is this the price of this or that? Your objective is just the best stuff possible. And so that's your guiding light, within reason. I mean, you'll spend money within reason, of course, but that's where we're at now. Mm-hmm. Really? VA Green says, I put a small amount of vegetable oil in my rain barrels. Seems to help with the mosquitoes, although not a big mosquito problem around here. Really? Why? In Virginia? You should have massive mosquito. Yeah, I had some rain barrels a few years back that I put goldfish in, and that was nice, but eventually they die, of course. But they will eat the larvae. They will keep them eaten, definitely. But this stuff, since I found this stuff, there's no going back. This stuff, BT is just an amazing thing. Look, guys, I left some of these. I still had some of these sitting off to the side of the garden. These are the alpines, the plants. And look, yep, nice and dark and delicious. 2 green stalks full of these. Even though the green stalks aren't really, well, we'll see. But we are getting a lot of strawberries, by this point. So, okay, guys. Well, it has been wonderful talking with you guys. We had a good talk today. Thank you very much for all of the comments. If you've got suggestions like I was asking for, then please put them in the comments, or you can email me as well. And if you're doing any shopping on Amazon, which I know a lot of you are, then do it through the Viking storefront. Bookmark it so that we can get the credit for that. Very important. Also, there is shopping links in the description. Also, there's Viking merch now. If you guys want to get some merch, I know Look to Nature already did. Several people already did. And so thank you guys. There's several different varieties. Let me know if you're one of the first waves of people to get the Viking merch. Let me know the quality. Let me know what you think. I need your feedback on the quality of it, because there's different routes that we can go. So we're going to order some, and you'll see us in the Viking merch. But that should be in there should be a banner down there somewhere where you can get it. I don't know exactly how to implement that, but I'm going to figure it out. So somebody had a question. Let's see here. Val says, I want to grow broccoli, cabbage, and cauliflower. Never worked in the past. Aphids get the cabbage. How do I start? Okay, cabbage, definitely. Broccoli and cauliflower are some of the most temperamental of all of the brassicas that you could possibly try and grow. So if you've got wild temperature swings, such as we do, I wouldn't even recommend it. I mean, you can if you want to, but broccoli and cauliflower are 2 of the lowest space for yield crops that you will plant. They're huge, big old leaves and stuff with a little head of broccoli in the center. One-time cut broccoli. Way better to grow Chinese broccoli. Yod fa. Cut, come again. Cut, come again. And like that. But the cauliflower, cabbage, definitely you can grow. And I would recommend starting the Brunswick cabbages right now, or the Gloria Weinkusen right now. Yeah. And you could use the ultimate slug solution when you see the aphids. Although the aphids, can be an indicator of growing conditions need improved. Too crowded out, maybe not healthy enough. Several things could be the problem. But okay, B. Hendricks says, eat a strawberry and tell us how good it is. Okay, here we're going to do right here. So it's nice and soft. Here's one thing you want to do, though, guys. You want to wait until the strawberries are like about to fall off. That's the best. That is the best, when the strawberries are nice and tender, because otherwise they're going to want to be a little bit sour. And so I will just remove it like this. Look at the colors. Got good coloring in there. Oh, yeah. None of that sourness. Straight away, bite into it. The very first frontal note is that of like a flower and honey, and a sweetness that is like a piece of strawberry candy wants to be like, but it just can't be like, because this is the real deal. And man, very delicious. But you gotta wait till they're ripe. If you pick it too early, it is gonna be sour. And so Mm. Fruity, sweet, everything you want a summertime piece of candy to be like, basically. Very delicious. And the seeds got a good crunch to them. A little bit of tanginess, but mostly just a smooth, drawn out sweetness. That's what I really like. Man. So we'll be making many things with those. We'll be making like a mash, with maple syrup and stuff. So we're going to be doing many different experiments with the strawberries, but I definitely like it. So we'll see. The green stalk, I mean, this is a day neutral. So these should be producing all summer long. So we will see. I mean, not this one, of course, because it's stunted in this little thing. Still pretty healthy, though. But the other ones should be producing for quite some time. Yeah? So, yes. Yes. So real quick, Melvin says, please talk about your course and the new YouTube video or channel you're going to do where we yes, so I did talk about the course and I will always be talking about them from now on, but the new YouTube channel is going to be Homestead Like a Viking. And it's going to start, it's not, it's going to start here soon, and it will include, it's just going to be crazy, guys. Things might be changing really dramatically. We don't know, we don't know yet, although I have already seen the vision many times. So it's very possible that soon things are going to be changing dramatically. And don't worry, I will take you guys along that whole thing so that you can get inspiration and knowledge from it as well. Yeah, I will be taking you guys along for sure. Not on this channel. This will remain just gardening stuff, and when we get the homestead, there will be gardening stuff happening nonstop. And so there will be a lot of content still, but the homesteading stuff will be a whole different animal. Yeah. More like how I made the Travel Like a Viking videos on my Travel Like a Viking channel, more like how I made those videos, as far as like vlog style, more just cut and more like you're with me, with us as we do things, rather than like, here's a knowledge, information, that kind of thing. Different kinds of videos. So look forward to you guys being there. And Kenny Green, I don't really know. What's the last day to plant sweet potato slips in Zone 9, Lodi, California? I would say still. I mean, Zone 9 doesn't frost. Is that right? And so I think they're not day sensitive. So I think that you could, does Zone 9 frost? I think you could plant them now. But if it frosts in that depends. When is your first frost date? We would have to know. Tell me when your first frost date. Meyer Lemons says, Nate, when you planning? Oh, you're back to being Meyer Lemons. Says, Nate, when are you planning to start the courses? The gardening courses are being filmed this whole year. And so a full season, all the green manure crops has to be filmed, the potatoes, the Viking North. We got so many things happening at the Viking North. It's amazing. And everything is thriving. And back here, so you have to film over the course of a whole year to really show the good stuff. And so the gardening courses will be available January, the first of the year. But the first course I'm doing is a master cleanse course, and I don't expect that to be huge or anything. It's getting my feet wet with the course, the software, the platform, running a couple of ads on Facebook ads, and I had to get the teleprompter. My studio is all getting set up. All this stuff has to happen, and so the master cleanse course is going to be really good. First, practice and stuff. So that's what's going to be first. That should be coming out within a month, 2 months. That'll be coming out. So, okay. Okay, guys. So we got to go. All right. We going out for Camille's birthday this evening. It's going to be awesome with the family. And then tomorrow we are going to a baseball game, Tin Caps local baseball game with the brother and the family. So it's going to be super cool. A couple of days of really good activities. So we'll see you guys next time. Val says, I love the Viking tribe. Keep us together, Nate. Oh, you can count on that. We're only growing. It's only going to get more deep. You can count on that for sure. Yep. We're not going nowhere.